Now we know that this conference has been organized by the Department of Communications, and here to speak to us is none other than the Minister of Communications, Ms. Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. Thank you so much for speaking to us. You know what, earlier on today you placed emphasis on creativity, and you said creativity is very relevant in this industry as we forge ahead into the fourth industrial revolution. Please tell us more about that.
Well, Mbali, one thing first, as we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, people have a tendency of focusing on the technology. And we're trying to tell them that technologies are there to enhance people's lives. But crucial to the work of the fourth industrial revolution is creativity. Because one of the big things that we're going to in the 4IR is video. And if you're going to say video is going to be the next big thing on the 4IR, it therefore requires creativity to play their part. I made an example earlier that it is reported that although MEC Panyaza has deployed digital classrooms, but kids are finding it to be bored in terms of accessing that content. And we were sharing from our side that the reason for that is because there's no creative methodology that has been used to make sure that as kids participate in the digital platform, they also accommodate it in terms of what they like. They like cartoons. Therefore, if we were to introduce that into teaching, it's going to help them take interest in their studies, but also to stimulate their innovation. But now, how do you do that without recognizing the people that drive the work, the people that write the books, the people that produce movies, the people that dictate our lives in the living rooms that we stay in? So that's why we said, let's engage with the creative sector to listen to them. What are the issues that they think we must address in order for them to participate meaningfully in the platforms that we're talking about? Because all of them, they are complaining, our content is taken by Google, it's not protected. We see them, they're replacing what we're doing, but we're saying, no, it's not time to complain, but it's time for us to have a dialogue. How do you help you to make sure that you can have a meaningful participate as creatives in the fourth industrial revolution?
You know, speaking of platforms, we had a conversation earlier on with Data Must Fall activist Thibaut Touch, who spoke about the need for local platforms, saying that it's so easy for local content to be wiped out when it's sitting somewhere in, I'm going to say, in the US. You know, what do you have to say about that?
What Thibaut had said is very important. That's why we had agreed as the ANC government to say, let's enhance our capacity to support innovation here. Let's have people who are able to compete with Google. Of course, it's going to take us too long. We're not expecting that tomorrow we'll have our own, but there are people who are working on such platforms. Today, one of the things that was presented by CSIR is the meme platform, a platform whereby it's an application you download on your cell phone, and then you're able to load in content. They create a channel for you, and that's a South African, as I'm saying, is produced by government. How do we tap into that, making sure that we create these different channels for the people that are producing content, but most importantly, also engage the likes of Google and others in respecting people's IP, in ensuring that they don't cheat our people, but that therefore requires us as government to come up with legislations that will ensure that the work of the creatives is protected, although it must be shared across Africa.
So the whole issue of data and data being cost effective obviously means that more people are able to participate in the fourth industrial revolution. And I understand that there are talks of spectrum being released and so on. And there's also the matter of digital migration. Obviously that's a big thing for the film industry and the creative industry, in the sense that it creates more platforms for them to participate and create content for basically the digital migration. Please talk us through all of these.
Well, with the process of digital migration, we have seen that we switched off Free State, but we're still moving to other areas. We are experiencing challenges though, whereby the boxes that must be available in the market are not there. As we switch off people, we have a responsibility as government to make sure, if we are saying we're switching off in Free State, people of Free State will have access, especially those that are not subsidized by government. At the same time, as you mentioned, we have a responsibility as the department now that is responsible for SABC to make sure that we don't destroy SABC, because right now SABC is not on the satellite platform. How do we make sure that we beef up capacity on the digital side to make sure that SABC is able to participate in that, including the channels that we have that must be added, including the personnel that we're complaining about, utilizing the existing studios that we have at SABC to make sure that SABC responds to the future broadcasting, not the traditional one like I spoke of the living rooms. The reason we're complaining about the OTTs, the likes of Google and others, it's because people want to watch content wherever they are, in their cars, in their cell phones, in their tablets. SABC has to transform to those. I'm happy to say, as part of the turnaround strategy that was presented by the executives to the department, there is at least an interest in ensuring that they will participate in the space. Of course, as we talk about that, you mentioned the issue of data. As government, we are rolling out the SA broadband program, which seeks to make sure that people are connected. You spoke about the spectrum. Spectrum is not the only thing that will lead to the data cost that must fall, but it is the regulations and the legislations that we need to review as the country to say, gone are the days whereby we were just using it for voice. Now the big thing is data. How do we make sure that all the legislations that are developed, they respond to a data-centric market? And that, as I said, will not only take spectrum to be allocated. It takes to the fact that how do we attract the private sector to deploy infrastructure. That means we have to incentivize some of them. Those are the discussions that we are having within the industry and government itself.
So speaking of legislation, part of the spectrum, the release of spectrum, was also including the sale of spectrum, and this was something that was welcomed by telecommunications companies, saying that they're welcoming the idea of actually trading spectrum. Please talk us through that.
Well, I won't get into the specifics of the spectrum now. We will make a policy directive public when we're finalized. After the engagements, then everybody will take tune from that.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There you have it. That is a wrap from us here at this conference that is dedicated to the 4th Industrial Revolution and the creative industry. It's back to you in studio right now.